Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. My name is Ken Shreve. Joining me today is Ed Carson, our esteemed news editor. We saw some profit taking in growth stocks today. Dow outperformed, mixed and mostly unchanged performance for the S&P 500 and Nasdaq, but some selling underneath the surface. Ed, you still found three stocks to watch.
Yeah, I want to take a look at AngloGold Ashanti, which did not have a very good day, GE Aerospace, and Embraer.
Very good. Yeah, gold stocks, quite a sell-off for gold stocks. We'll take a look at that. Let me pull up our chart here, and we'll do a screen share, and that should do it. Let's see here.
It's a little bit like M&M. It's like calm on the surface, but a little bit uneasy
Yes.
underneath.
I may have you run the charts if you
I didn't
don't.
mean you uneasy. I meant the market uneasy underneath.
Okay.
Like some of the sectors.
It took a little while to come up here, but here's a look at the S&P 500, and well, we just got to size this a little better here. Appreciate your patience. Okay. Okay, Ed, well, why don't we start by taking a look at the S&P 500, up just a little bit, up 1/10 of 1%. We did have the NASDAQ composite down just a little bit. Again, ironic because there was quite a bit of selling in growth stocks underneath the surface, but Nasdaq holding up after that nice gain yesterday, and then take a look at the Dow, which actually outperformed today, extending gains after a nice move yesterday, and then the Russell 2000 lagged a little bit today. Let's see where that ended up. Yeah, pretty, nice move yesterday, closed off lows today. So overall, Ed, we're in a situation where the indexes look pretty good, up near highs after that weak session a couple of Fridays ago. How are you feeling about the market here?
Yeah, I mean, the indexes are right at highs, and I think investors should be prepared to maybe get more aggressive if we hit decisively new highs. I mean, the Dow did hit a new high today, but really wanted to see the S&P and NASDAQ do it. But it does feel like underneath there was a lot of stocks that are getting hit, and it does feel like stocks will make a move one day and then pull back. And so there were some names that flashed some buy signals and came back down today, not necessarily terribly, but it just makes it tricky. It feels more volatile, even though we've had a couple of positive, sessions in the market, and today was flat in many ways. It still feels a lot of volatility. So, I'm not doing a whole lot right now. I'm sort of holding what I have. I may have trimmed last week as certain volatility, and I think that you don't necessarily need to sell things unless individual stocks are under pressure. But it may not be a great time to be adding a lot. And if you do add, I mean, just maybe take smaller positions and just be ready to cut them very quickly if they don't work out, because some things
Yes.
are going to work, but it's not like a rip roaring market like we've had in much of the last several months.
Well, it's we're still kind of waiting to see if the market is gonna resolve this bad day of price action right here on a Friday, but it did come down and hold the 50-day moving average. And I would say that even, looking at the Nasdaq composite after that 1% or gain of more than 1% yesterday, to see it hold tight here and really not give up any ground at all is pretty bullish. So, like you
Yeah.
said, if indexes start to move into new high ground again, that might be the market's cue to maybe start putting money to work here.
I just add that there's tons of news that's coming up. I mean, we have probably U.S.-China trade talks late this week. We have the CPI on Friday, though that probably won't make too much of a move. We'll have the Fed next week, but we have just massive earnings next week. Microsoft, Apple, Meta, Google, Amazon, and a
Yeah.
lot of interest about how AI, and there's some unease about AI. So there, anyway, just a lot to go on in addition to just how the market is acting. Again, market's acting fine. We're at record highs. It's just about talking about what you do in the very short term.
Here's a look at the equal weighted S&P 500 ETF. Actually, did better than the S&P today, up a 0.5%. The equal weighted Nasdaq 100 QQEW. That looks like an could be an all-time closing high for QQEW. And then we mentioned bond yields still just kind of floating near that 4% level now underneath at 3.96. Looks like where we're at, but we're still looking at two more rate cuts. Looks like two more quarter point cuts by the Fed before the end of the year. Is that correct?
Yeah, that seems to be what everybody's expecting right now. Pretty locked in for next week. It would really take something shocking
Yeah,
to not have that happen.
yeah. And the Fed meeting, like you said, next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. Mentioned growth stocks under pressure today. Again, not much movement in the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, but Innovator, IBD 50. You can see things are getting volatile up near the top here. But just something to keep in mind. Testing the 21-day line, but down 2.7%. So if you're a growth investor and you've had some big winners this year, probably not a bad idea to be taking some profits. It really just depends on the stocks that you own. Some people may still be heavily invested if they have stocks that are acting right. Others that maybe are succumbing to profit taking. Probably a time to at least think about trimming some of these positions. Wanted to take a look at ARKK. This is a Kathy Wood ETF, not down as much as FFTY today, down 1.5%, Ed, but still holding up near highs here.
Yeah, and I think the difference is that FFTY honestly has a lot of gold stocks right now, and so those are probably the biggest
Makes
losers. So
sense.
while there was growth stocks, there were definitely growth names, and some of those growth names had big losses, but gold stocks were a big factor for FFTY. ARK is doing well. Tesla's its biggest position. Yeah, it was down a little bit today, but that's doing well. A lot of other things are doing fine, but there are definitely some speculative names that are not. I think ARK just happens to have sidestepped those, at least today. So there's that.
Yeah, we got Tesla reporting earnings tomorrow after the close. Still fighting a good fight up near highs here. Also wanted to take a look. We mentioned the sell-off in gold today. I'm not really sure what news was fueling the selling. I don't know. It's news seemed to be hard to come by. But here's a look at GLD. Which was down 6% through the 10-day moving average. Now looks poised for a possible test of the 21-day line. In our database, Ed, a lot of leading gold stocks saw many of them down 8, 9, 10%, even more. Saw the dollar maybe strengthen a little bit today, but was there any specific news that was, or just profit taking hitting this group?
I feel like it's more profit taking. I mean, there's some people saying, "Oh, China tensions are easing." It's like, well, we just haven't heard anything bad for a couple of days. We got the China
Yeah,
trade talks on Friday or so. It's not like everything's happy. Yeah, I mean, look, not only have we had such a huge run, and there has been this strong run for the last couple of months, but the last couple of weeks it's picked up even more. It's starting to go even more vertical. Just yesterday we hit a record high, so it just feels like, I mean, and that's just a lot to ask for gold to be making that kind of run.
yeah,
So especially with others, the market at record highs. Yeah, some other speculative things are off. It's just it is gold strength, given the market strength has been odd. I mean, but it's definitely been real. So I don't know if this means the end or anything. It's just something that obviously this is one reason why we talk about never buying things that are really extended, because you can have things like this. I mean, we're only down through the 10-day line. It's not like it even
yeah.
got through the 21-day line. I don't know where gold's going to go from here, but yeah, maybe just been profit taking after really hitting the accelerator the last few weeks.
Yeah, we actually put GLD into the leaderboard model portfolio when it was breaking out of this sideways consolidation over the 320 area, and it's been a nice winner. But we didn't feel the need. We trimmed it back last week a little bit, but didn't feel the need to exit completely with. And figured we'd just give it a chance if it's going to come down and test that green line, the 21-day moving average. We will let it do that. So just holding a small position right now, and we'll see how that goes. You mentioned also the AI stocks. Saw some selling today, particularly some of these nuclear power firms. So let's take a look at NLR, which is the Van Eck Uranium and Nuclear ETF. Here's down for 4 straight sessions. Not completely broken, but gave up that 21-day line, which has been a support level in the past.
And we saw it throughout. We saw it through the utilities. We saw it in uranium. We saw it in the speculative startups. And we also saw it in other names, like we saw it in coal plays, which have become AI plays. Like there's just this voracious need for energy. So we also saw GE Vernova, which reports tomorrow morning. That one's been pulling back in recent days. And you could argue some of the data center stocks have been falling. I mean, Iran, CoreWeave. I mean, again, a lot of these names have gone on huge runs. I don't know. And with all those hyperscalers next week, maybe people are taking profits. Maybe they just need to take a break because they've gone on just massive runs. So
Yeah,
I don't know what it
yeah,
means, but it does. I just think that there's seems to be some nervousness. And this is like that whole AI adjacent plays and AI things. There are definitely some pressure in there. Again, it's hard to know how uh, it's easy to spot the end after the fact, but because this could, we get good news next week from the hyperscalers and all these surge 30%. But it's just something to note. Yeah, the nuclear is just part of that. There seems to be a lot of these things under the surface, and AI is just so important to not just the stock market, but the economy. So
yeah, yeah.
really interesting what's going to happen the next week.
Nice earnings report from Raytheon in the aerospace and defense group before the open. That fueled a nice rally in a lot of aerospace and defense stocks. So it makes sense to take a look at the iShares U.S. aerospace and defense ETF. Closed off highs, but still managed a gain of 1.8%. Ed.
Yeah, and I assume GE Aerospace is in that is too. And Embraer
Yes.
may or may not be in it, but we're going to look at another name. So there were a lot of aerospace names. So you don't have to do everything, just everything, in the in tech or gold. I mean, there are other areas that are doing well, and people should be aware of that.
Nice acceleration in earnings and sales for GE Aerospace. You can see earnings here up 44%. The top line up 24%. So pretty strong numbers. It did close off highs, and then I think RTX. I always call it Raytheon, but RTX is
Yeah,
the
I
new
forgot
company
that
name.
that slipped me
Uh,
when you said it. I didn't even
yeah,
notice it.
yeah, so RTX had a nice gap up on earnings, and 7.5% gain. Came off highs a little bit, but still a strong gain. All right. Well, we mentioned the selling in gold stocks. Let's start by taking a look at AngloGold Ashanti. Uh, Outstanding fundamentals here. You can see just down at the bottom the past 4 quarters of earnings and sales. Very strong here. This one, gap down. Mentioned all these leading gold stocks down 8, 9, 10% or more. Anglo Gold had a tough day. Looks poised for a test of the 50-day moving average here.
Yeah, and it's sort of a question about how much do you believe in gold? How much exposure do you have? What's your general investing philosophy? It's like, went through the 21-day line and really heavy volume. And it's sort of a question, how much is it going to go? Now you might say, well, maybe it can go a lot more. I mean, maybe it just pauses for a little bit and makes another run. So you don't have to sell here. I think if it broke through the 10-week line, 50-day line, I think that really would be something where you would have wanted to. You certainly could have taken partial profits today. I mean, it's sort of a question of, well, where do you think it's going to go? I mean, it just that's hard, but this was not unusual, and this is also again, it's not can't be a real shock given how much these have moved. These are only giving up a few weeks of gains here, and it's just been a tremendous run all year long. So anybody who bought this, if you bought this like at say 30, or somewhere in there, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. I mean,
Right.
it's and so even if you bought more recently, say one of these shorter consolidations around say 55 or what have you, or 58, You don't have to. I mean, but it's just you just sort of when do you want to do it? You have to you eventually you have to book a game, kind of thing. And it's just sort of there's this is definitely where selling a winning stock is an art rather than a science. So, but I just think that it was notable. I mean, there was a lot of names coming down today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I jumped the gun a little bit on GE Aerospace, but let's just go back and revisit GE Aerospace, which was one of the better earnings reports this morning, and talked about the nice gain for the stock. Hit an all-time high, gave back some gains, but there was some pretty good news in this earnings report. I think I saw they gave pretty bullish revenue guidance for the rest of the year. Any more details on earnings here?
Yeah, it was definitely a beat and raise report. It was strength in commercial, strength in defense. Uh, you know, I, obviously people were probably anticipating that. You can look around and just see how things are going. There's sort of strong defense spending. There's a lot of demand for new jets. So it may not have shocked people to see this. If you look intraday, I mean, it did close poorly, at least in its range. But on the other hand, it didn't do as badly. If you look on a 5-minute chart on this one,
Hmm.
it's not as bad it really had that first minute or two, first 5 minutes, but after that, it sort of settled down. And yes, it would have been nice if this closed, at 308, 311, but it's not the worst. And I think also if you go in the perspective of a weekly chart, it still had a decent gain here. So it got above recent highs, which offered a buy point. It would have been disappointing. This is why we talk about waiting 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour before
Right.
coming in. And so it closed just below the 307 area. If you bought it, because you got above most of this short consolidation, you sort of could have bought that. It's definitely one to be watching. It's gone on a great run. It's pausing. It's not like crazy extended. It's been finding support at the 21-day line. So it's definitely something that could be actionable again. I think I'd like to see a little more strength. Maybe not get to yesterday's highs, but maybe at least get above, say, 308, 309. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
You
mean,
always,
it's a real leader.
you always have to be cognizant too of stocks that have rallied quite a bit headed into earnings. You mentioned next week earnings is going to get very, very busy. A lot of your Magnificent Seven reporting, but always look at where your stock is. Has it rallied a lot headed into earnings? You know that sometimes presents a sell the news scenario. So earnings season can be tricky. There are plenty of people that like to trim back positions headed into a report, especially if it's an aggressive growth stock. But pretty good start to earnings season so far. Let's conclude by taking a look at another. Stock in the aerospace and defense group that actually found its way into the leaderboard model portfolio today. Embraer. This is a Brazilian aircraft maker. This is a nice looking breakout.
Yeah, and I like how it looked. It had that ugly cup with handle in it before. That cup with handle formed because of Trump tariffs. You can't, that happened. And then suddenly it's like, well, maybe it won't affect Embraer so much. I mean, it was everything about that was just like, what? And that's something, the danger of the news. But
Yeah.
it tried to break out, fizzled, but it held support. It didn't really break down. It found support around the 50-day line and it formed a flat base. And so you can sort of more treat it as everything since June is sort of pausing, that whole area, just sort of forgetting about it. It's sort of like a lost weekend, that whole area. But I like it. It tightened up. And so the RS line is, if it didn't hit high, it came very close. Strong volume today.
Looks like it did. Yeah.
Yeah, they announced a record backlog, I guess, overnight or this morning. So just real strength there. It's also, I mean, it's another thing is that EWZ, Brazil ETF. I don't know how that did today, but that's picked up a little bit. There was some weakness, and we're seeing some strength in some Brazil names. So yeah, this came down a little bit, but you can see that there's been a rebound over the past week and a half. So again, that's something that's just another positive. Embraer is probably cares more about the international markets than a lot of Brazil stocks. So I don't know, but it's still nice to see that movement. Solid growth from Embraer. A lot to like about it. There's, Boeing has it still trying to wait for it to turn a profit after like 5 or 6 years, but Embraer, solid performance. There was a weird loss. I don't understand how that all works, but next year is supposed to be very strong. So yeah, nice pickup for leaderboard.
Yeah, it looks like the last 2 quarters of earnings, almost one-offs here. Might have been some extraordinary one-time items, but the group overall continues to be very strong. Even Howmet Aerospace is a big Boeing supplier. This one moved nicely today, up 2.4%, trying to re-break out. Looking at that 198.48 recent high, getting pretty close to that. Okay, let's take a look at a big earnings report after the close. Netflix, which had been trading pretty well ahead of earnings, reclaimed its 50-day moving average. It's under some pressure here. I don't know if we have any details yet. Anything you see, Ed?
Yeah, I mean, they missed on earnings. It looked like by a fair amount. I don't know what the reasoning
Okay.
is, and I haven't looked elsewhere. I didn't have a chance to look at it elsewhere, but yeah, this was right on the cusp of a buy area, short-term buy points, perhaps, within the base. We'll see, but this one makes big moves on earnings, and it doesn't always go to the upside. It's not always a happy ending. So we'll see there. Capital One, I think, is interesting. That one is showing some positive reaction. It sort of sold off in recent weeks. I think concerns about lending, and it had a big sell off last Thursday when the regional banks came under pressure. But now it looks like it's going to bounce back above the 50-day line. This doesn't have the greatest relative strength, even longer term. But it looks like they're going to have, they beat earnings by quite a bit. I think is what happened here. So that'll be interesting to see how that does. There were a couple other big moves. Texas Instruments was really weak, so I mean it's not the most important chip maker. It missed, and it certainly guided lower. And then I don't know what happened, but Intuitive Surgical, uh, that one's coming back a little bit. That one is having a huge gain after hours on its earnings. This one's really sold off in a whole bunch of reasons, but that's going to gap up, above the
Wow.
200-day line all of a sudden, I probably,
18% gain. That's pretty
yeah.
incredible for a company
So
this size.
that's moving. So that I don't know what has changed, and if some of the concerns about tariffs and other things are off, but those are some of the big movers after hours.
Very good. All right. Well, that's a pretty extensive look at after hours activity here. And let me stop my share and Ed comes back on. Ed, thanks very much for your insight. We always appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken.
All right. That'll do it for today, folks. We appreciate you watching. Yeah, very tricky market right now. We got indexes back up near all-time highs, but growth stocks under a little bit of profit taking here. So still some names out there acting well, but I think the big picture column in recent days, maybe a little more defensive tone, and seeing a lot of kind of wild speculation in the market. Some of these speculative stocks going from 20 to 100 in a very short amount of time. So, seeing some froth out there that is possibly a warning sign, but always have to look at the market, and indexes have come back nicely, and they're flirting with all-time highs again. So, have to respect that price action. So, Ed and I will be back here tomorrow for another stock market today video. That'll do it for today. Have a great afternoon, everybody.